Someone's going to go for two and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number one. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. Along with John Bruce, my name is Dewey Dailey, as we welcome you into this week's show, episode 49 of the podcast. Hard to believe we're already in week 10 of the high school football season. We had a lot of upsets last week.
Yeah,
wild week. And we got one more week before tournament time on the football side of things with the district semi and district final rounds in both volleyball and soccer coming up tonight at the time of us recording this being Monday night. So we won't have any recaps then. Hopefully we'll be able to review all of the district winners come next Monday for what'll be episode 50 of the show, a big one, and we'll talk about, that'll be a pretty big show for episode 50. We'll talk about maybe some of our favorite football playoff matches in week one of the playoffs and talk about all the district champs and the regional semis coming up. And we just saw that the Division 5 volleyball tournament, the regional semi round getting moved up to Wednesday instead of Thursday. So a lot happening last week and, a lot coming up over the next 2 weeks for us here.
Yeah, and if it was done correctly, first touch should have just happened within the last minute here as over at Radinger Field and did I say Radinger? It's Reddit. Waverly.
Redinger.
Yes.
Redinger Field. There you go.
Oh, this is going to be bad. Yeah,
Field.
right down the road.
Yeah.
So they should just have kicked off down there. So excited to get there. I will be out.
You going over there tonight?
No, we'll see. We'll see what time we get done. It's gonna be cold, and I didn't bring any like super sleeves.
That's what you had on the other night.
Yeah.
In Yoda, and it was a little
No,
chilly.
I had the gray pullover on.
Yeah.
No, because I wear 3 different things. So yeah, it's no wonder you thought I wore the same thing. I usually do. So yeah, it's like Dewey said, it's a big week last week. A lot of upsets, a lot of points in some of these games. Some games that we thought were going to be close that were not particularly close at all. Some teams won league championships, which we'll talk more about next week whenever teams are more locked in. We'll talk about one championship game that happened that came down to the last few seconds the other day, which we might see a rematch in week 12. I don't know if you saw that. So there's a high possibility that the first game that we're going to actually recap will play again in week 12, and it would be in Pike County.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Where we did week 12 last year.
Yeah, we'd probably end up there again.
Yes.
Hopefully.
I mean, if it was 13-12 the first time, then I feel like second game.
That was a 13-12, like, it wasn't like the team that had 13 was up 13-0. There were some like garbage points. Like that was a tight one down there.
That sounded like a heavyweight battle, kind of between the team. Kind of sounded like the home team didn't really want to win with how many turnovers they had. So, but yeah, should be a fun episode. And I'll just say this in advance. Follow J Bruce SVC on Twitter if you want soccer updates on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also volleyball on Saturday because nobody was going to Southeastern, and boy's going to Southeastern now. So
company guy over here.
He
All
is.
Right. We can go ahead and jump into the headlines. Some football headlines. This usually isn't where we've been a lot of talking about a lot of soccer and volleyball milestones and such, but we've got a couple football headlines to jump into on this week's show.
Week 1 of the tournament in volleyball and soccer was kind of weird because there weren't really many games and not a lot of competitive games. We will talk about the most competitive game, though. We will review that game. Finally got lucky on your choice of volleyball matches. But, so I'll let you go first on this one. This is a good one.
All right, so we'll jump into the headlines. This one's kind of a 3-parter. Maybe a 2-parter would be a better way to describe it. But Rock Hill and Chesapeake this past weekend, you wanted the over in that one. As it was
I took the under at 108.5.
As it was a 60-49 final in favor of the Redmen. 109 combined points between the two teams. I mean, and it's a team in Rock Hill, and I didn't do the math for Chesapeake, but for Rock Hill, they're averaging like 37 points a game. I mean, they've been putting up a ton of points all season long, and they end up getting the win here. But I mean, if you look at their points for and points against, they're well, I guess they're not as close as I thought I would because they've had some lopsided, like a 55-0 over Belpre, 35-6 over Sims Valley, but they've given up some points as well, and that, anytime you give up 49 points and win, I mean, that just kind of shows the type of day you had on the offensive side of the ball, and when you have a guy like Anthony Stamper in the backfield that's statistically probably, I would say a top 1 or 2, maybe 3 if we're being a little generous to the other backs in the history of the Redmond program. Probably a top 3-ish running back in the history of Rock Hill's football program, right? I mean, senior tailback through this season. I think he was our OVC Player of the Week this past week. I don't know. We don't do them every week. It's like every 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, and like sometimes you'll see them out. You'll see them on the website on Monday, and then they'll get posted like on Thursday.
Yeah. But for Stamper, right, through 9 games, he has 1,407 yards on 150 carries, so he's averaging nearly 9.5 yards per carry, 156 rushing yards per game for Stamper. And, I mean, when you have a team that's averaging, 4 or 5 scores a game, I mean, 36 points, that's 5 touchdowns a game. Like, that's the kind of stuff you're going to have. He's now broken Rock Hill's single-season rushing record that was previously at 1,398 yards. So, I mean, you figure the 156 average, he's going to be good for 1,500 yards by the time it's over. So he's going to end up more than likely breaking the record by over 100 yards come the season's end. And
then he's going to get at least one playoff game.
Right. There's still the postseason to come, and on top of all of that, the dude has 21 rushing touchdowns on the season. I mean, he's been a do-it-all guy. He also leads Rock Hill in receptions through 9 weeks with 19 grabs for 257 yards. And if you just look to the box score of that 60-49 game against Chesapeake last week, he had 225 rushing yards on 25 carries, had 5 rushing touchdowns as well. So Stamper, like I said, he's been a do-it-all guy. He's been extremely efficient. I mean, the 9.5 yards per carry shows that. I mean, you don't have to look much further than that. The 21 rushing touchdowns we've already mentioned. And for Rock Hill, I mean, it's one of their more successful seasons in the past, 15-ish years. I didn't do that math. I think it was 17 was the number I was looking for. But it was the first time.
You said 15-ish.
15-ish, so I was giving myself. That's give or take. But for Rock Hill, the win over Chesapeake was their 7th this season. They now sit at 7-2. They've now won 7 games in a season for the first time since 2007. And they're at Colgrove this week. And, we haven't talked a ton about Colgrove as a team, but we've mentioned Caden Murphy here and there. So I think it's kind of a matchup between, excluding Chase Highland, probably 2 of the top backs in the Ohio Valley Conference. I think maybe Murphy, Stamper, and Highland are probably the top 3. I think Cam Kitts, obviously, we've talked about him a lot, is another good one. I seriously can't name drop anybody on Chesapeake off the top of my head.
They score a ton, too.
Do they?
Yeah.
But yeah, for Rock Hill, it's been a great year. For the Redmen, they're statistically their best season since 2007, and Anthony Stamper, a big part of that. I'd like to see where he stands in terms of career rushing and stuff, because Rock Hill is one of the further teams away from us, so I haven't really been following them a whole lot, so I'm not sure if maybe this is his first year really having the reins of the backfield, or maybe he's a 4-year starter, but with the kid that's averaging 9.5 yards per carry, it's kind of hard to believe this is his first year as like the main running back. So I would assume he's got to be within the top 5 of Rock Hill's all-time rushing, or he could be a transfer, and I'm not 100% sure. But regardless of all of that, it's been an outstanding year for him.
So here's my thought though. Tony Love, this is his first year at Rock Hill.
Yep.
You would think that like any school that loves to run the ball would love to have Tony Love.
You just want to say Love a bunch of times?
No. This is kind of for Kenneth.
Oh, yeah.
Kenneth gets this part, but he was close to getting a job at a school that runs the ball, and it seems like that's the big thing that Rock Hill does this year, and that's why they are at their most wins since 2007. They got 9 wins in 2005, and that's the most wins they've had since 2002 at the very least. So this is one of their best years they've had in quite some time, like you said. So, and Stamper is a big part of that. So it's a it's a heck of a year for the Redmen, and if they win this week, which according to Fantastic 50, they're big underdogs, but if they win this week, I know I don't fully.
I mean, I would maybe understand them. I don't even totally fully understand them being underdogs, let alone 18 points. That kind of seems like
it seems like a lot, but
for a team that scores as much as they do.
Right, they're going to get a home game,
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to guarantee they win.
Seems like we could be seeing Rockville.
I'm going to be honest. If they lose, it might be better because Miami Valley Christian does not seem very good. Madison Plains is having one of their better years in a few years. Sorry to bring that up, but that was the best year they had since your senior year. And it was after the playoffs. But that Madison Plains team also lost Westfall to start the year. So I feel like it's a team Rock Hill would match up with either way with Madison Plains or Miami Valley Christian. So there's definitely a chance to play a couple more games after.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Stamper gets 3 more games, then that single season rushing record might be a little bit more untouchable for seasons to come.
If they're going to win at least 2 of those games and be competitive in the third, he's going to need to get to probably close to 2,000 yards. So, and
225 this past week.
Yeah,
in the game they scored 60 points. So.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. So that's our first headline of the week, and our second one. We don't have exact numbers on this. Our second headlines. We're staying with football. Northwest beats Waverly for the first time since 2010. And only the second time since 2002. I saw somewhere it was only the 4th time they've ever beat them, and they've been in the same conference for most of the time.
But yeah, I was gonna say, didn't they just recently move into the SOC 2 for football? Weren't they in the SOC 1 for?
They were in the 2 for a long time, and the program was kind of in shambles, and so I don't know if they requested. I'm guessing they did to go down to 1, and kind of. Because, I was talking to Shane today, and it was like he had some ideas for, some junior high stuff where at your end-of-season tournament, your 8th place team isn't playing the first place team because they're not going to beat them anyway. But maybe they're playing the 7th place team to give, one of those teams a chance to go in with some good feelings, and that's how you kind of keep kids around. So, for Northwest going down a division, they were able to put together some wins, and that's how you get more kids out. Because it's tough when your school isn't ever winning. So they went down, now they're back up, and they are guaranteed to finish at least 500 for the year, which is a nice improvement over last year, where we thought they were pretty good last year whenever we saw them. So second year in the SOC too, and much more success. But yeah, for Northwest, a 49-40 win over Waverly. They moved to 5-4 in the year, 2-3 in the SOC 2. They've got Oak Hill this week. Dominic Stone scored with about 27 seconds left in the game to really seal it. Colton Campbell had a rush touchdown as well, and then Carter Runyon, which if you watched our stream when they played Valley. I want to know what Carter Runyon's stats are on the year, because that dude runs, some of these games he runs wild. He had 5 touchdowns against Waverly, including an 80-yard touchdown. Multiple were long distance, but they don't run that many plays.
Right.
So with the certain movement, the pre-snap movement,
sweep right.
Yeah, the pre-snap movement, it's coming. You still can't stop it because Carter Runnion's so big and strong. And then when he gets in the open field, that 80-yard touchdown run, he's running away from some really athletic kids from Waverly, and nobody was even close to catching him. So, really nice win for Northwest as they led through most of that game. But they, Waverly scored 6.5 minutes left, and then didn't get the ball back until the last 20 seconds. And by that time, Northwest had scored and put the game away. So, yeah. So congrats to the Mohawks for doing something they hadn't done in quite some time. Right. Now for Waverly, it's the end of their SOC 2 season. They finished 5-4, 3-3 in the SOC 2. They play a Mount Healthy team this week that hopefully this is the last year they play Mount Healthy.
I think it is.
Yeah. So with the kind of not misaligned, but uneven schedule that the SOC 2 has to play, kind of had to just find something in week 10, and it just happened to be that Mount Healthy, which is not a great matchup because I think
they're pretty good.
Yeah, and I think they have a really fun nickname.
Not healthy.
Yeah,
I will say at least
they might be the Owls.
At least I think it is. At least that game is at home this week instead of making the trip. Isn't that in like Mount Orab or something?
It's past that. It's past it. It's close to Cincinnati. Yeah, so I think it might technically be in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's a long drive for a regular season game.
Yeah, I had a buddy that taught there and coached track.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Trivia.
Yeah, so let's go Raiders. Because Wright State. He was. Oh, okay. That's where we went to school together. But Mount Healthy right now, just is Division II, Region 8, and they are currently 5th in their region with teams like Hamilton, Baden, Vandalia, Butler, Trotwood, Madison, who has recently won a state championship.
Fun fact about Trotwood Madison, girls basketball team on a live stream way back.
Yeah. That was one of our first ones, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think in terms of scheduling up, I think it gets to a point where you're not really gaining from it.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, let's schedule up and go schedule, Cincinnati, Wyoming, or let's go schedule somebody that we have absolutely no chance of beating. Right. I feel like for Waverly, a team you want to schedule up against would be like a Jackson or maybe not Ironton. That I don't think anybody around here really wants to play Ironton. But go find an out of conference opponent that might. I mean, even so we can talk about it a little later. But it seems there's a good chance that Waverly could get matched up with Logan Elm in the postseason, and that's a team that you could play in the non-conference because they're relatively around your size,
and they've got the unbalanced schedule too.
Right. So because they just played Alexander.
They just played Alexander.
Last week,
yeah.
So it. Or go play Athens or something. Go play some of these other teams that are atop of their conferences. I'm not sure Waverly would want to play. It's for me, and we're getting ready to talk about this team. It's kind of hard to gauge how actually good Eastern Pike is because they, I guess I should say it's hard to gauge how good they are in comparison to some of these other teams.
Mm-hmm.
We know how good they are in comparison to the teams in the SOC 1, but how good are they in comparison to Portsmouth West or Waverly or Valley? You don't know.
I got an all-timer right here. Okay. I hope you're ready for this.
I am.
I can't think of the theory where it's, if this team beats this team, they're better than this team because they beat this team. Yeah. So Mount Healthy in week 3 beat Wilmington 19-13. In week 2, Miami Trace beat Wilmington 21-19. In week 1, Waverly beat Miami Trace 28-23. So
what was it? It was Waverly beat Miami Trace. Miami Trace beat Wilmington. Wilmington beat.
Also lost it, but they lost to Mount Healthy. So it doesn't fully work.
The score
19-13.
Oh, so it's close.
It's close. So
you're telling me Waverly could lose by 6.
If you compare points.
Okay.
If you compare points,
they should win.
They're up 1 because where they won by 5, then Miami Trace
won by
2,
and Wilmington lost by 6.
Yeah, so
Waverly's up 1.
Yeah, because then that makes it a 4-point difference.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah,
you're telling me.
And they're at home. Yeah, they're at home. And
senior night.
That's not the crazy stat I was talking about for later because I got one. I've got a stupid one later.
And for Waverly, the senior night and the homecoming nights, those can. I mean, we just saw in Chillicothe that a homecoming night can kind of stir things up to go your way.
How about a week 9 homecoming?
That's pretty late.
But some people have week 4 homecomings.
For Waverly, they've got a talented senior class. It'll for sure be their last time playing over at Radier Field. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they show up and.
Actually,
a little bit.
Hold on.
I mean, I think if they win, they probably might get a home game.
If they win, they would be 100% at home.
Okay.
Against Philo. And that game would be electric.
Yeah.
That's their mascot.
I
didn't know if you know that. But, so for Waverly, they scored 40 points in the game. You just got to get stops on defense.
It kind of seems like it's been the problem.
Recently.
Other than the Uniota game when they only scored 14, it seems like their other losses, they're putting up points.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not Wheelersburg either, but the other ones.
Mason Kelly was 17-27, 282, five touchdowns. Cody Swords, it was a Saturday Night Live thing. 10 catches, 188 yards, 4 tutties. And then Sebastian Belisano, which we were talking before, is got to be like a top 3 name in the Southeast District. 17 rushes, 111 yards. He's a heck of a player too. So I mean that helps. Like if Sebastian Belisano was a
WWE wrestler.
Well, that's a good name too. But I was gonna say like a 3rd string backup. Like we wouldn't know his name, but gotcha. Yeah, he's a name you say because he's a good linebacker and he's a good running back.
Bullpen pitcher.
Yeah,
like coming out to mop up duty in the bottom of the 7th.
But he would come out.
Belisano.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a dynamite name. But yeah, so congrats to Northwest, really good win there, and they are. Like we're gonna do a little thing later where it's like when you're in, talk about those games. Northwest is not in that situation. Yeah. They're gonna finish. They have a very good chance to finish 6-4, but then it's like a 5% chance to get in if they would need so many things to happen that it's very unlikely. Now, one thing that would help them would be if Waverly won because they could get points that way, but
so they need
a lot.
Who does Valley play week?
Well, it doesn't matter with that.
Valley beat
yeah. So for Northwest, they would need
Oak Hill to beat Valley somehow.
But they beat Oak Hill.
Right,
Yeah. So they would need McLean to beat Hillsboro. Huntington to beat Adena, which I mean, those two aren't that crazy. Like
the Oak Hill one might be.
Yeah. Then Minford to
beat Wheelersburg.
No, Valley.
Oh.
Yeah. Then they would get points from themselves. So, yeah.
Okay.
Then Vinton County to beat Wellston.
That's probably not happening either.
So
they need all of that to happen, probably.
And then some teams to lose. So,
yeah.
But
good season.
It's a good season. Yeah. So, just kind of going to Northwest real quick. I'll do that real quick. So, 3-7 last year. They went 7-4 the year before, but last year was the first year in SOC 2. So they're back in it. They're going to finish 500 or maybe above.
I would have liked to see Northwest play Eastern Pike. Like, I wish they kind of would have kept them in like their non-conference maybe.
That would have been good for the non-conference. Yeah,
especially the last couple of years.
They lost to Eastern Pike 2 years ago, 23-21.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was.
I feel like
that was the start of Eastern's gigantic win streak.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
All right, we can go ahead and move on to the recaps. We have 1, 2, 3 to go over, and we'll kick it off with the game that I think we said we were going to start off with. Eastern Pike remains on top in the SOC 1. Their extremely long, I don't know the exact number, extremely long regular season winning streak continues 21 in a row.
Yeah, I have it down there at the bottom. I have it at the bottom of the notes.
Do you?
Yeah, will be
21 consecutive wins in the regular season for Eastern. They just barely edged this one out, 13-12. Big play at the end of the game by Eric Manley. I think it was Boston Webb on the other end of it, but I think before that
it was 2 plays back to back.
I was gonna say Manley had like a 13-yard run on like 4th and 10 or something. So it was a tough road test. I'm assuming that was probably South Gallia's either homecoming or senior night. So I mean, you go on the road, and I mean we talked about it more or less for the last 3 or 4 weeks. It was like the South Gallia game was going to probably be the big main test for Eastern in the regular season, and it was.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping this game would be, that it would have been in the opposite location just because, South Gallia is a heck of a haul for us. But, it would have been, I don't know if they do their senior night or their last game, but it was their last home game officially. But started off, Eastern forced 3 turnovers, obviously on the first 3 possessions. Brewer Tomlinson gave the Eagles the only score of the first half with a 1-yard touchdown. If you don't know Brewer Tomlinson, he is one of their star offensive linemen. So when they put him in the backfield, good luck tackling him.
Do you remember what Kenneth said last year when we were at that game against Waterford?
What?
It was like 4th and 1 or something, and so we live streamed Eastern and Waterford last year, and we were down in the bleachers. It was, and Kenneth is up top with like their coordinators and junk, and Kenneth said that they lined up Tomlinson in the backfield, and he ran it and got the first down or whatever. And he said before the play, like one of their coaches tapped him on their shoulder and was like, "Hey, bud, watch this," or something, and they just ran him out there. And I mean, it's like the fridge going out there and just slamming it up for the first down.
Yeah, very good athlete as well. So yeah, it's gives them a 7-point lead at the half. Tanner Sanders for South Gallia scored a 12-yard touchdown run in the third. Judah Kermeans had a 25-yard touchdown run. After a Sanders interception, he actually ended up with 2 interceptions in the game. Then it comes down to, Eastern's able to force a turnover late, which is something that kept happening throughout the game. But Eric Manley on a 4th and 8 ends up scrambling, picks up 13. And then the very next play with 38 seconds left, he connects with Boston Webb for an 11-yard touchdown that put them up 13-12. And that's where extra points are so big, because they were able to go for 2 there. But the fact they made their first one, which is why they won their first game of the season over Miller, because Miller missed an extra point. And that's the kind of craziest part about, we mentioned a 21-game regular season win streak. They won 2 games this year by a point. They won a game last year by a point in the regular season. They also won a game by 3. So it's not like they're just blowing teams out during these games. They're doing it, the hard way. They're grinding games out, and just really earning these victories. Last year they also kind of a phantom hold late probably cost them the game against Waterford, but that Waterford team was really good, and
that Waterford team's probably back.
Yeah, they're really good again this year. But yeah, for South Gallia, they end up 7-2, 3-1 in the SOC 1. They've got Sims Valley this week. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I think it's like they pretty much guarantee themselves a home game with a win there. I think they're at Sims Valley.
Well, we saw Sims Valley kind of give Eastern some problems in the first half of that game.
Yeah,
I think Eastern pulled away late.
And it's at Sims Valley, so it's not really an easy place to play. So, it ended up being 53-29, but
like 29-21 or something, like in the first half, maybe.
And then Sims Valley's playing for their playoff lives. They would need to get to 4-5. If they win, they'd be in. Then they get to go to Trimble, which is always fun. But, it's still, that means they're playing for something. So South Gallia can't go in thinking they've got an easy win. And they've got to take care of the ball a little bit better. They had 6 turnovers in the game. 3 turnovers to start, and then they threw a couple interceptions and also had another fumble late. But Tanner Sanders, 17 rushes, 125 yards and a score in the game. Judah Kermeans, 12 rushes, 97 yards and a score. Likely going to be the 7 seed, which means we could get a rematch in week 12, because Eastern is going to be the 2 seed unless something real crazy happens to Danville, which I think... I want to say it was like Danville had a very low chance of losing. Like, Danville is very highly regarded by the computers, but they score a lot of points and also are very good. So they play at East Knox this week, so they're favored by 23, so they probably will win that. So
usually a 23-point favoring by week 10 is pretty solid.
Yeah. So for Eastern, probably going to be the 2 seed, which means in week 12 we could see a rematch of South Gallia and Eastern, which would be more than likely our streaming game for that.
Hopefully we have. I mean, we talked a little bit about.
Hopefully
Waverly
we have options.
We're hoping we just go Waverly, Logan Elm week 11, and maybe we get that one in week 12.
Yeah, it'd be fun for sure.
That would be.
On the night, Eric Manley didn't have his best game passing. He was 9-23, threw a couple interceptions, did throw a touchdown. Obviously, the big one late. Threw for 121 yards, but that's kind of the growth you want to see. He's a first-year quarterback. He played wide receiver last year. When you don't play well, like it's kind of like what characters who you are when nobody's watching, whatever. But you can see how talented a kid is when they don't play well, how they bounce back in the game, and that's a huge bounce back performance by him to be able to come back and make the play down the stretch. The 2 plays down the stretch. Boston Webb, 5 catches, 58 yards and a touchdown. Brady Moore led them, 19 rushes, 52 yards. Like we said, 21 straight regular season wins. They're going to be the 2 seed. They won a playoff game a year ago, and I think they'll be a pretty heavy favorite to win this year, as well as Frontier, which Frontier is in New Matamoros, I'm guessing that's a heck of a drive for them. They're currently 3-6. But, they play Green this week. They're heavily favored in that. But, you never know. You just got to take care of business if you're, I almost said the Beavers, the Eagles. So it should be a fun team to follow going into the playoffs.
Matamoros, Ohio, New Matamoros.
It's a big difference.
New Matamoros, Ohio is on the...
It's over by Pittsburgh, right?
It's
or Wheeling?
east of Marietta. Northeast of Marietta, but it's also like right on the whatever river that is. I don't know. What river goes through like Athens? Ohio River?
Oh, no, Hocking
River? Oh, no, It is the Ohio River. So they're right on the Ohio River, separating us and...
so they're not that far into that district?
It's probably a pretty far drive, I would say, but... yeah, we can go ahead and move on to it. And it wouldn't matter for Eastern, obviously.
Well,
they would be
one of the best things about SOSA Overtime presented by Perfection One is that sometimes you'll get geography lessons, and that's kind of what you're getting here. Like it's probably like over yonder.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah. So
I think I turned my computer around at one point last year to show it.
All right, we can go ahead and move on to our next game. We'll talk about probably the biggest upset in our area this past week, as Chillicothe going into their Week 9 home matchup with Miami Trace, 22-point underdogs, come out on top 28-25 for their second win of the season. Now an even 2-2 in the FAC. Now they are back at home against Jackson this week, but we'll actually talk about that matchup here in a minute. On the night, Carte Ligon, the freshman superstar for them, one of the more exciting players in our area, 32 carries for $132 and 3 touchdowns. He also had 6 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown. And Andrew Hammond, not a glamorous stat line, right? But sometimes as a quarterback, you don't have to absolutely stuff the stat sheet. I mean, he was 11 for 14 for 150 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. It was a mistake-free game for a sophomore quarterback that, maybe you hoped he, maybe starts. I mean, he's sophomore. This is like a 16-year-old kid. He's got 2 more years left, and you kind of hope that Hammond and Logan and I think Sawana Singh maybe isn't. I think he got maybe hurt for the rest of the year. I'm not sure if he played in this game or not. I know he was banged up for the past couple weeks. I'm not sure if he played in this one. But for Chillicothe, it's a big one over Miami Trace. And, for the Panthers, right, they're still going to make the playoffs. They're sitting at 6-3, also 2-2 in the FAC. They're at Courthouse this week, so they're probably going to finish up 7-3. And, Trey Robinette had a pretty solid game for the Panthers, even in the losing effort, 21 of 26 for 212 and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown, but, for Chillicothe, I've said it a couple of times throughout the show already. I think it was homecoming for them, so, a big crowd for the Cavaliers, and, they came out and they showed up. We were, at our game, it was a 43-0 final, and we're sitting at Applebee's, and it's like, Chillicothe down the road just beat Miami Trace. Yeah. You got to be kidding me. Like, you go from a 22-point dog to a 3-point winner. I mean, just a big win for this young Cavalier team, and the best part about it is it comes in Week 9, so I feel like that's something you can kind of carry into the off season and into next season in terms of momentum.
The craziest part about this? They won, I mean, obviously, but I guess they were 10-point dogs against Hillsborough, but they're 13-point favorites with Washington. They are very close. Like, they're 9 points away from being legitimately playing for a league championship this week, because they're 9 points from being 4-0 in the FAC, which would put them, they're 10 points from being 5-4. So you've got a team with a sophomore quarterback. Their big play guy is a freshman. I mean, did you say the numbers already on Logan? But 32 carries, six receptions, so 38 touches in the game for a freshman,
and efficient.
Yeah.
Too.
So obviously he's your big play guy, because you're trying to get him the ball as much as possible. So
he's returning punts and kicks.
Yeah,
too, so.
You're playing him and getting him touches as much as possible, which means you're reliant so much on underclassmen, and they're so close to being over 500 and playing for a league championship. So I mean, we saw a game where they were a couple penalties, and really it was young penalties away from beating a West team that's been really good. And it's just they're not that far off. I would look for them next year to be vastly improved. I mean, I still think it's Jackson's league to lose because they got a lot of juniors coming back. But this is a team that, I mean, really, at Miami Trace next year it'll be really tough. But I just think they're
Miami Trace gonna have to have a new quarterback.
Yeah.
Now we talked a lot about Julian Baker.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll have him back, which will be problems for everybody. But
yeah. So I mean,
you said it best.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's gonna be a team to watch for sure for Chillicothe. Week 10 is gonna be tough with Jackson.
Chance to make the playoffs though.
Yeah,
If they're able to knock off Jackson in week 10, they sit at a 30-point underdog. If they were to win, they would go from 5 Harbin points to 9 Harbin points, and they would have a 49% chance to be in and play Tippecanoe. So
not Tyler too though. Yeah, and Tippecanoe probably not the best matchup.
No, but they'd also make the playoffs.
But you would get an extra week of
3-7,
practice.
right.
You get an extra week of practice, and just keep getting better. So it wouldn't be the worst thing for them. It's a very long shot, as you said, 30-point underdogs with Jackson, and I'm not sure if
22 last week.
Yeah, so never know. You got one. You're gonna have one of the most dynamic players on the field at all times, no matter who you play. So, and for the next 3 years. So, congrats to the Cavaliers on the big win, and for Miami Trace, there's no way they can get their heads down after losing back-to-back games because you got Courthouse, who's played pretty well right now. So, actually, now that I think about it, I think technically has an outside chance to win the FAC.
Who, Chili?
No, Courthouse.
Oh, Courthouse.
Because they're 3-1. So if they would win and Chillicothe would beat Jackson, have a two-way tie at 4-1.
Wild.
Yeah, I'm going to say it won't happen, but technically it could happen. Like the movie the other day, I don't even think I ever told you about that. And Angels in the Outfield, the little buddy is like, it could happen constantly, and it's awful. But then it does happen. So, spoiler alert. Sorry, but yeah, it's congrats to the Cavaliers. Coach Bartholomew's done a great job wherever he's been. I know the last couple of years have been rough for the Cavaliers, but if they stick with him, they're going to be pretty good. So,
all right, we talked a lot about the Rock Hill and Chesapeake game, about how high scoring it was. We had another one, not quite to that magnitude. It's hard to top 109 points. The Westfall and Huntington, over 60 points, right at 65 between the Mustangs and the Huntsmen. A 34-31 final as Westfall comes out on top with an outside chance to make the playoffs for them. For Huntington, not as much, but Huntington, I think, has a lot of young guys to come back on next year as well for them. But yeah, 34-31 final as Westfall advances to 4-5. Huntington sitting at 2-7.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about like kind of what we do, I don't know if you get it as much, but like I'll have like different friends through social media, through coaching, like different coaches, like whenever we do stuff for them, or like there's a coach for Huntington that I coached against him when he was at Chillicothe. And he shared something for their senior dinner they had. They have 5 seniors. It was one name I recognized. I think a couple were linemen, but for the most part, the names of the kids that we see every week in the stats are coming back. But they gave them. It wasn't a bobblehead. But it was kind of like it was like an action figure thing. It was made with their uniform, like the Huntington helmet. It was really cool, and like it was positioned to like what position they played. So like the linemen were like down and ready to block and stuff. It was a really cool senior gift. So like you get to see some different senior gifts that are pretty cool. So did you get a jersey?
I had to buy it.
Oh, did you? Yeah. At least you got a helmet up there.
Yeah, that's over there. But
yeah.
I used to have it on the set last year.
Yeah.
Lazy to put it back out.
Yeah. So, for Huntington, they've got, they're a lot of youth on their team. A lot of this was missed extra points because they scored 5 touchdowns, just they weren't able to convert the points after, which ends up ultimately costing the game in this one. But they're 2-7, 1-5 in the SVC, but they play on Thursday this week, which is an interesting night because of officials had to move their game with Adina up to Thursday. And I think if we didn't have really big district implication games, there's a chance that we were going to stream that game originally, but that'll be a good game, for those two to finish their season with. But for Huntington, they were led by Isaac Taylor, 26 carries, 103 yards, 5 scores. He was really big in week 1 in their win against East Clinton, and he got hurt and missed a lot of the season. But when he's been back, they've been pretty good when he's been there. So he was there for both their wins so far, and then obviously 5 scores in this one. Also, Frankie Hirsch, sophomore quarterback, 9 of 14, 145 yards. He also had 9 carries for 71 yards. He's going to be good as well. His younger brother is going to be coming up next year and has more size and will be another target for him next year. Evan Thomas, a junior, 3 catches, 61 yards. They've got a lot of their options back for next year. I think they're a pretty well-coached team. They've dealt with a lot of adversity this year. I mean, Dewey did a great video on kind of part of that. And it's a close-knit community and everything, and, it would be nice to see them, be able to take the next step. And I think with this young talent they have, if they can all stick together, I think they've got a chance to get back close to 500 next year, if not above it. So for them, I was glad to see that they really battled up there, in Fearson Pike for Pike or up at Westfall.
Relatively far drive.
Yeah, it's not an easy one either because you got to go all the back roads to get out of Huntington to get up to Westfall. But yeah, for Westfall, very similar route to last year to make the playoffs. Last year they had to win 4 of their last 5. The same teams that they played last year, they've beat 3 of them, but they've got the Week 10. The Week 10 put them in the playoffs last year, and they would have to win this year as well. Now they also beat.
They would put them. I mean, this is a win, and I think we're going to talk about that a little later. But for them.
Yeah, they were. Last year they beat Circleville, so they would have had more points this year if they beat Circleville. So that's their only. Every other game is the exact same result. They're 4-5, 3-3 in the SVC. They did lead this game 34-19 with 6:40 to play in the third quarter, and ultimately didn't score anymore. But they scored on their first possession in the second half, kicked an onside kick, recovered it, then went and scored again, and ultimately were able to get the turnover they needed at the end. Carson Deskins had the game-sealing interception with less than a minute left to seal it. I think it's A.J. Pottage. My apologies if it's not how you say it exactly, but he was 11 for 12 for 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. The quarterback, he's had a really nice year. He missed week 1, but he's been really good throughout the year for them. Jaden Toller, 3 catches, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Here's a kind of crazy stat. Connor Gear and Landon Sparks each had 3 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown each. It's kind of hard to get those exact numbers. Yeah. It's not like 1 catch for 10 yards and a touchdown. No, it's, yeah. Then Joey Wright, who's closing in on 1,000 yards, had 22 carries for 127 yards and a touchdown. Westfall is in a win and in, at Piketon. I originally, before I really looked at it, had win and get some help. But it appears that if they win, they're in because Piketon's going to get them so many points. So last year they had to beat Piketon, and they scored a ton of points to do so. This Piketon team is much better defensively, so they're going to have to play kind of a more all-around game. They're going to have to get some stops as well. But that one should be an interesting one down in Pike County. It should be a, for Piketon, they're already in, but you win, you get a much better seed and chance in the first round. But if you lose, then you're going to be you're going to be in like the Harvest Prep territory.
Right.
They won't be at Ironton territory, but they will be closer to Ironton territory if not, and that's what you don't want to be. So so Westfall Huntington played a really good game in week 9. Those are programs. 2 young coaches seemingly have their programs going in a positive direction.
Ready to do power rankings?
Yes.
For the second to last time. I think maybe after next week. I'm not sure if we'll do power rankings come.
We're doing them in basketball.
Well, no, yeah, I know that, but I mean, like, well, I guess like all of our top 10 will probably make the playoffs. So I don't know. Do you want to do power rankings? Like, should next week be our last power rankings for football? Like, be done after week?
Yeah,
10?
I think so.
So like, yeah, okay, I think that would make sense. So second to last time we do power rankings.
Yeah, because like there's going to be like my number 4 team is probably going to be like a 14 seed. So they're going to have a really tough game. Like they're going to have to go like 300 miles to go play at Barnesville or whatever it is, 165 miles. Maybe it was 3 hours. I don't know. But they're going to have to go play an undefeated team. Well, there's a chance they lose. Right. So, that would I take them out completely or,
That's why, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd rather just next week be it.
Well, you know what's not going to be the last thing we do or the last time we do? I don't know. Anyway, did you know Perfection One has served Southern Ohio families?
We're not very good. We're not very good at the segues.
For over 30 years. Well, if you didn't, you do now. They're one of the oldest collision centers, now serving Pickaway, Ross, and Pike counties, featuring state-of-the-art equipment, technology, and manufacturing certifications. All certifications may vary by location. Perfection One, we meet by accident and are highly recommended. I was trying to say, like, what we're not going to do for the last time? Talk about Perfection One.
Oh, that would have been good.
I couldn't cook it up.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't practice ahead of time. So, yeah, so Perfection One also, if you're driving up or down 23, look for them by the sheriff's station. That's where their new location is. It's a little over a year they've been there, and, it's...
See them off the highway, Circleville, too.
Yes.
Sign off the road. I almost took a video of it.
It's by my house
for the pumpkin
Chillicothe.
show. For the pumpkin show, I parked really close to it, right across the street. I almost took a video of it and took a video, sent it. It was like, hey, Perfection One, but I didn't do it.
Because you would have had to walk 12 blocks after to go get pumpkin spiced cookies.
What do
you think of the pumpkin show?
So
I'm sure that it was completely your choice.
No, actually, I kind of did want to go.
I
live in Kingston, so like. I feel like that's close enough to be like the pumpkin show is kind of in my backyard a little bit. We went on Tuesday, which I found out was the first day of it. I thought Monday was, but I guess it was Tuesday. So I don't think everything was like moved in yet. It was a little cold, and the stuff I ate wasn't the greatest. I got pumpkin donuts from. It was
maybe don't shout them out if they weren't the greatest.
Well, no, the pumpkin donuts were good. They were actually Krispy Kreme has like some pumpkin donuts. Yeah. Like low key, I kind of thought these ones were better.
Didn't you make the pumpkin donuts on Saturday?
Well, I don't make them. I mean, it's just like a mix. I make them, but I don't.
You were the head chef, so you made them.
Whatever. But man, I can't remember. It wasn't like a pop-up shop. It was like one of the downtown.
Oh, okay.
Like it was already there. It was like a last names bakery. I can't remember, but they were pretty good. We got these like pumpkin waffles, but like they weren't like the consistency of a waffle. It was almost like a potato chip, and they had like powdered sugar on them, and they left like a film in your mouth. It wasn't very.
They were
good.
Trying too hard with the pumpkin part.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong. And then I got like a fish sandwich, and like when I get a fish sandwich, like it doesn't have to, like I don't need to watch you fry the fish. Like it needs to be like the fish was cold when they gave it to me.
So you don't like when it falls apart,
No,
like when the bun falls apart. You and Kenneth both.
Yeah. What, did he get a fish sandwich?
No, that was down at in Athens.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys were complaining about the fish sandwich down there after when I got my card stuck in the machine.
Oh yeah. That wasn't good.
That was a heck of a day.
I don't even remember the name of that restaurant, but
I do, but I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, well, the past couple fish sandwiches I haven't been too great, but overall, I think the pumpkin show is a good time. I mean, I'm not the biggest pumpkin guy. Like, I don't like pumpkin pie is fine, but it's not my favorite. But whatever. I think spooky season's a little overrated myself.
Yeah, my first experience in the pumpkin show was working at a Westfall food booth when we were coaching up there, so that was fun.
Oh, at the pumpkin show?
Yeah, that was not. I wasn't like I'm not very good at that stuff, so it wasn't great. And then the next time I got a T-shirt with a cat on it.
All right, well, let's go
I
ahead
didn't
and
pay
talk
for
about
it.
our power rankings with 0 Pickaway County teams in there for this week. So I can go ahead and kick it off, right? So Ironton.
What?
Yeah, can you believe it? Ironton is still in the 1 spot. Their only loss on the season was
We might want to name this, like, since we don't have a...
top 9.
Yeah.
Should we should it be like with
No.
Carroll where we just don't have Ironton?
No, because we technically cover them. But no, I was going to say, like, we just name it the Ironton Power Rankings. And then that way you just kind of just know it. They're already mentioned that way.
So Ironton's still in the 1 spot. The only team they've lost to all year was a team out of the country. So,
Canadians.
Can't really hold that against him. Plus, there really aren't any undefeated teams left other than Athens and Eastern. And Eastern passed their really big test. We'll talk about them in a minute. But for Athens,
and Boo Gridiron Glory, by the way.
What?
Like, I know that Eastern Pike isn't technically in their coverage area, but like I saw there, like, week 10, could our undefeated teams,
did they not include Eastern?
No, they have Tri-Valley. Tri-Valley's not even close. Like,
They probably would have had like Circleville or like Eastern has to be closer to Athens than Circleville. I know Circleville's not undefeated, but I'm saying they would include Circleville if Circleville.
Oh, they talk about Bloom Carroll. Well, Bloom Carroll's not that far because it's got 33, but yeah, it's not very close. So yeah.
Anyway, Jackson in the 2 spot. I think they beat like McLean or something this last week, or maybe Hillsboro, one of the two.
Beat somebody by a lot.
It may have been Courthouse. Gosh, there's a spider on my microphone. Gosh.
You are.
That just scared me a little bit. But Jackson, right.
Hold on. Jackson beat Hillsboro by 49.
Right. I think it was 49-0.
Cerro, yes.
It was somewhere on the ticker down at the bottom. We could probably get a sponsor for the ticker. I feel like it'd be like
well, we should probably not say it. We probably shouldn't give a free sponsor out, but.
Well, no, you'd have to pay for it, but it could be like the
Tom's Tomery ticker.
Yeah, like
or
pizzas,
or it could
pizza ticker.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't the McAfee show have something's ticker at the bottom?
Probably. It's probably like a heart doctor.
All right, let's try to get through the rest of these power rankings. So, I had to pull up last week, so I know where people move. So, for me, I still have Unioda in the 3 spot, right? They've kind of passed their last big test against Paint Valley in a big way, more than likely going to clean up their 2nd consecutive gold ball at home against Southeastern this week. In my 4 spot, I had Wheelersburg bump up 1 because we had Miami Trace bump down a few spots. Still kept them in the power rankings, but we'll get to them here in a little bit. These next few teams all obviously moved up 1 as well, with Miami Trace dropping. So Fairland moves up to the 5, and Athens moves up into the 6. Now, I did have Portsmouth. I
shouldn't have sent mine to yours. To you.
What? No, I did mine before you.
Uh-huh. I did mine at Applebee's on Friday.
Did you?
Yeah.
I did.
But I didn't tell you until I sent it to you.
I guess ours are pretty... Oh, they are pretty much the exact same.
Yeah.
So I didn't just, put Miami Trace right in Paint Valley's spot. So I had Paint Valley at 7. I actually jumped Portsmouth up to 7 and dropped Miami Trace down to 8.
Okay, it's different.
Right, it's a little different. And then I think Eastern moved up 1 spot into the 9, and then I had Portsmouth West come into my top 10 for the first time this season. They're now at the 10 spot. So it's Ironton, Jackson, Unioda, Wheelersburg, Fairland, Athens, Portsmouth, Miami Trace, Eastern, and Portsmouth West.
And now for something completely different. I've got Ironton number 1, shocker as they've been there all year. Jackson number 2, where they will stay. Unioda moved up to 3. They've taken care of business since their 1 hiccup. Yeah, I moved them up 2 spots. I mean, 43-0. Yeah, there was, Pay Valley was down their top player, but still 43-0 is, It was a very impressive display by Unioda. I dropped Wheelersburg down to 4. What?
Your movement of Wheelersburg in your power rankings this year has been
hilarious,
absolutely insane.
Yes,
you bump them up when they lose, and you bump them down when they win.
It is what it is. 5, I got Fairland. 6, Athens, who just keeps annihilating people, which we'll talk about here shortly. 7, I have Portsmouth. 8, I have the Senators of West, which I had them at 10 last week. So I had Portsmouth. I had 8, moving them up to 7. Eastern Pike, I moved from 11 up to 9th. And then Miami Trace dropped from 7th down to 10th. The big thing that helped them was that Amanda Clear Creek lost, because Amanda probably would have taken that spot if not, because they had been moving up throughout the year. Nelsonville is right on the outside for me, as they have been rolling the last few weeks. And once again, we'll talk about that in just a moment.
All right, we can go ahead. We're only going to do top 10 this week.
Yeah.
We might
Which
go
is
back
good
to top 20. The 11 through 20 is starting to get a little messy, and I don't know how to. I don't know how to deal with
we'll
it.
do that next week.
We'll
finish with
final?
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might be a little easier. I'll just do our final, who we think is.
Yeah.
It might get to a point where I just throw out some head-to-heads that happened in the first half of the season, just to kind of reflect how I feel. I mean, it would be hard to say, like, oh, well, this team beat this team, but they also lost their last 5 games. Like, can I really have them above them just based on the head-to-head? But you'll find out next week when maybe I have some teams ranked above some teams that may have beat them. But we're only going to preview one game this week, and I think it's one of 2 conference championships that have officially made it into the final week. We'll just throw it off, before we get into this one. Wheelersburg and West, the SOC 2 title game, as both teams are 5-0, I believe, in conference play. Because I think there's 7 teams in the SOC 2.
Yeah, you might see some people down there.
You might.
Yeah, you're not going to be there.
I won't.
No.
I won't.
You'll be freezing.
No.
Are you even close to the ice when you go?
No, I'm on the second level.
Oh, okay.
They close all of it off, but they leave one section open for
Is
media.
Where do they play?
The Schottenstein.
Okay.
They play the Schottenstein.
So you don't have to go to the very top.
Not where the press box is.
Because the press box is ridiculously high.
I know. No,
they did such a terrible job with that arena. It's such a bad arena.
Yeah, I liked St. John's a lot more. I just like the wood seats. I think they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they yanked the Jumbotron out of there, so I think it's officially cooked. But
boo.
Whatever. I think the last thing I was in there for, they hosted it was a second round game for the NCAA women's tournament before COVID.
Well, they played the year they won the NIT, which is 2008. They played Dayton there. That was I think they played a couple games in there with the men's team, but that was one of the last games.
I think they still do skull sessions in there.
Yeah,
but I want to watch a game in there. That place
it's so cool. I watched the last ever game in there. They lost to Penn State in overtime.
It's 2015 or something.
No. It wasn't the last ever game. It was
the last before they moved to the shot.
Yeah, so it was 97. So you were definitely alive. Or no, it was 90. It was 9. It was 98 because in 99 they didn't make it to the Final Four. So
Ohio State basketball just gets on my nerves. I can't stand it.
So Scooney Penn, who ended up being, I'm sure he was an All-American, but he had transferred from Boston College and was sitting that game. Michael Redd was a freshman, was really good, and
before he got hurt an insane amount of times.
Yeah, then those two took them to the Final Four the next year, which once again I didn't see them win to go to the Final Four, since they had to erase that. Hopefully they get that back.
Why?
Because
I don't know.
Because they had a player that was paid a little bit of money to for his parents or something. It was a Serbian his family was at war in a war torn country, and so he got some help. Boban Savovic. Yeah, surprised you didn't know that since you weren't born yet. But so I love
How did
St.
we
John.
get to that from Wheelersburg and?
Because you're not going to be there on Friday.
Oh yeah, we started talking about Ohio State hockey.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, West and Wheelersburg SOC 2 title game. Probably going to be Wheelersburg, but we'll see. I mean, West has had some. They've been tight with some teams, but they've also handled a few teams that maybe we thought.
And you don't want to be in a close game with them.
No, if you let them hang around, they are going to make you pay. So,
yes.
Would not shock me if they hang around or even potentially win. Come this.
The
Friday,
Rock is going to be El Rock,
and it's at home.
Yeah.
So senior night for them, and they got a big one in Mason Parker going out. So we'll see what happens there. But we're going to talk about Athens at Nelsonville-York. Athens, no blemishes yet for them on the record, sitting at 9-0, 5-0 in the TVC, whereas Nelsonville, Nelsonville, not quite as good overall. They sit at 7-2, but also 5-0 in the TVC. I mean, it's a team in Nelsonville that was in this position last year. Now, the title game came a week earlier against Vinton County, which Vinton County obviously won, and it was like their first, I think it was their first TVC title in a few years.
Mm-hmm. Long time.
Right, so for Nelsonville, it's their at least second time in a row at this stage. I can't speak much beyond last year because last year was the first year I really started paying attention to all these conferences. So Nelsonville going to look to avenge last year's TVC title game loss and potentially hand the Bulldogs their first loss of the season heading into Week 11 because obviously both of these teams postseason bound as well.
Yeah, and this is an Athens team that's dealt with some injuries throughout the year. Alex Perro, it seemed like earlier in the season was going to be out, but he's been back.
Is he back?
Yeah, he's back.
Good.
So he's a senior. Braden Young, their senior quarterback, has only played in 5 games, and his numbers are crazy in those games, but he hasn't played in quite some time. So they've been dealing with some injuries, and they've still, been pretty dominant so far. This is their best season that they've had since a little quarterback named Joe Burrow was there. They have a chance to finish undefeated for the first time since Joe Burrow's senior year. So, and they're doing it against their rival. They're pretty heavy favorites in this game. I wouldn't go that far because Boston Field, it's never easy to win there. But they are having an outstanding season overall. 3 straight shutouts for the Bulldogs over Meigs, Wellston, and River Valley. 6-5 last year. So coming off of a season where they made the playoffs, but definitely I don't think anyone expected them to have the season that they've had. So Braden Young, senior quarterback, has been out, as I mentioned, has been out for a little bit. I believe if, Max Preps won't just keep throwing ads up. 49-62 passing on the year, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had thrown for 815 yards whenever he went out, 79% completion percentage. But Daniel Heitland, Jr., has came in, thrown 66% completion percentage, 411 yards as his replacement, also ran for a touchdown, done a good job. Alex Perro has ran it 107 times for 675 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, and 11 scores. Anthony Sutton, a junior, 71 carries, 617 yards, 8.7 a carry, and 7 touchdowns. And then, we talk about, dynamic players that get touches in a lot of different ways. And one we haven't really talked about at all this year is Leo Martin. He's a senior, 32 catches for 624 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's also got 3 interceptions on defense. He's got a pick 6. He's got a punt return for a touchdown. He's been outstanding every time he touches the ball for the Bulldogs. Him and Perro both lead the team in scores with 11. So, he's been outstanding. And then Seth Hart, a senior, 96 tackles, 6.5 sacks. He's also got 14 tackles for loss. It's a team that they've just been really good. It's hard to say really anything else about them. Schedule hasn't been the strongest, but you can only play who's in front of you. And they have played who's in front of them and dominated.
Right.
Philo, 5-4, they're going to be in the playoffs. They beat them 28-14 in week 1. Marietta and Warren has got to be one of the weirder games of the week because they're both.
Warren probably isn't going to make the playoffs.
They're both,
even though they're 7-3. They haven't got there yet.
Warren and Marietta are both 6-3 and probably not going to make the playoffs. Whoever wins. They've played. They've beaten these teams that are on their schedule. They have 4 shutouts. So really impressed with what this Athens team's been able to do. Now they're playing at the only school in the state of Ohio with the mascot of the Buckeyes besides Ohio State, the Nelsonville-York, who is 7-2, 5-0 in the TVC Ohio. They have 2 losses, one of which I'll talk about in a minute, but one of them was the Waterford team that we talked about. But they're led by
only 12-6 too.
Cameron Sullivan, a sophomore quarterback, 861 yards passing, 51 58% completion percentage. So not the most efficient there, but 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so pretty good in that aspect, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Anthony Gowder, a junior, 124 rushes, 740 yards, 6 yards a carry with 11 touchdowns. And then once again, going to guys that kind of do everything. Landon Inman, a senior. I hope you're ready for this. 15 catches, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's also got 258 rushing yards, 7.8 a carry, 4 touchdowns there. He's also 8 for 10 passing for 167 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. So anytime he touches the ball, something big is probably going to happen. And, they got to try to do what they can to get him the ball in this game. I think it's Gowder also has 1 pass for 80 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, they've been very efficient when they have thrown the ball this year. Then Alec Thompson, a junior, he's kind of, I remember him from basketball, really good length, 16 catches, 353 yards, and 5 scores. He's also got 3 interceptions on defense as well. So this will be a big rivalry game, big matchup. And TVC Ohio on the line. I don't know if people thought that coming into the year, but it's been a really good year for both teams, especially for Athens.
You want to give that stat out?
Oh,
I was going to say,
yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at Nelsonville's schedule, and there's a particular loss in week 2 to a team that only has 1 win that is very surprising to me at this point in the year. So let's have it. Was it
16-0 or 19?
19.
19-0.
5-point favorite.
Yeah, they lose in week 2 to Logan. Logan, who this year is in the OCC for the first time.
Region 7.
Yeah, not going great. No. Logan currently is 17th in Region 7.
Oh, that's not too far out.
Yeah. Oh, it gets worse.
Wait,
If, huh?
Nothing. I was just looking at. I see where this is going.
Franklin Heights is in front of them. Franklin Heights beaten Delaware Hayes. The teams that Franklin Heights beat aren't going to win. Like Dublin, Scioto, Bexley, Central Crossing have a combined 4 wins and play teams that are very good. So they're not going to get any extra points. Logan, if Nelsonville-York wins this game, Logan will get in the playoffs as the 16 seed at 1-9.
I'm gonna play Big Walnut, probably.
Yeah, I mean no. They could still get in 10% if they lose.
Right.
No, if they lose, there's a chance they get in.
Was that the playoff quirks thing that was
on
there?
Like 1 win and get in. So they would need help because Logan's not going to beat Taze.
So what I'm hearing is, I think I said it earlier, so you're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Logan to go 1-9 and make the playoffs. And really, for Nelsonville, just looking at in one scenario you're home and one you're away, but you're obviously 100% in either way. It's not a great matchup either way. You win, you get Union Local at home, which, Union.
The Jets.
Well, I think Union Local.
They got to be better than the other Jets.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know much about any of these teams that Union Local has played. They played Barnesville this week, so we'll kind of get a look there. But, for Columbus Academy, that's who they would play if they lost, and that would be on the road. So it's hard for me to gauge, which you would rather play. Now, for Athens, this is one you're going to want to win because let me make sure I'm on the right. Yeah. So if you play Athens, or if you are Athens, and I don't know what I was looking at earlier. I thought I saw something where one of these teams played Bloom Carroll. But I may... No, I don't know what I was talking about. But, God, what a great segment this is. For Athens, if they win this one and finish up 10-0, it seems like they've pretty much locked up the home. They're going to have a home playoff game, right? If you win, probably going to play Carrollton. I'm assuming that's how Carrollton. If you lose, going to be Bishop Hartley, which I can't imagine that would be a very fun matchup for them. So
the Carrollton Warriors, they're over there in Carroll County.
I thought I saw somewhere on here that one of these teams played Bloom Carroll. I don't know what I was looking at, but
It wasn't. It was Hartley.
oh, was it Bishop
Yeah.
Hartley? Didn't they beat them?
Yeah.
Where is that on here? Oh, Bloom Carroll. Yeah, okay, so that's where I was gonna go with it. I was trying to get to the point. I couldn't find Bloom Carroll on their schedule. I was saying this is probably one you're gonna want to try to avoid playing Bishop Hartley, given the fact that it kind of seems like a trap 5-4 team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who they play week 10, so
St. Charles.
Okay, so they're probably it would be a trap 5-5 team because they went toe-to-toe and beat Bloom Carroll. So anytime that's who you get rewarded, I know we keep kind of going back to it, but that's kind of like the Unio Clinton Massey matchup a few years ago where it's like, yeah, you're playing Clinton Massey, but they've also won a bunch of state titles, so it's like, is that really a reward?
I'll tell you,
there's a lot on the line here.
If Hartley wins and Granville wins, that's going to be Coach Heath Hinton, former St. Trace great.
We've mentioned some former and almost St. Trace coaches a couple times.
Yeah, so they would probably play Hartley. That's not a great first round matchup, but those are really good teams. Like that, I think it's Region 11, which is what Athens is in, is supposed to be the toughest, according to Drew Pesture, which we were hoping to get on, but I believe laryngitis was what. So that was a no-go for this week. But
maybe next year.
Yeah, so he was, he had said he was asked like, what's the toughest region to get into, and it's Region 11 to just even get into the playoffs. So getting a home game would be huge. Anything's going to be tough after this one for Athens. So win this one, and then look at week 11 as it comes up.
All right, let's go over some of these win and in, and even win and home games. For some of our area teams, now this is for teams that within the spreads are at the most a 21-point underdog.
Mm-hmm. So like where we mentioned Chillicothe was a 30-point underdog, they're not mentioned in this because that's a very long shot.
But these are like potentially possible long shots.
So first one,
say that and Chillicothe's going to end up making the playoffs.
They're just sandbagging their way. And so first one up is, you know what? I'll skip that one because that's going to be, I'll make that one of our last. St. Trace at Paint Valley with a win. St. Trace is 100% in, but also it means not playing Ironton.
Right.
If they lose, there's a 91% chance to get in. So, I mean, they're still very likely, but it would be playing Ironton. And you don't really want to do that. I think... maybe not Harvest Prep either. Those are probably the two schools you want to avoid. You also probably don't want to go to Barnesville just because you don't want to go to Barnesville, just because of how long of a trip it is. But I don't think if you end up getting to the 14th seed that you would hate that much. Another one that's going to be more than likely in no matter what, but Colgrove, 100% chance with the win, 95% chance with a loss, but that's also another one where you want to win because then you're going to get yourself into a better situation for week 11 and give yourself a chance.
Is Barnville the Rocks? What is their
Shamrocks?
Mascot? Oh, the Shamrocks.
Mm-hmm. Then another one that's, going to that first one, which you mentioned, Westfall at Piketon. If they win, 100% chance they're in. If they lose, 1% chance. So
that's literally what it is.
Yeah. Then Sims Valley is the exact same situation against South Gallia. At least they're at home. 100% chance you're in the playoffs with a win, 1% with a loss. And then one that is very likely, but also would be kind of awful. We haven't talked about them really at all this year. We talked about them a little last year, but Hamilton Township, they play host to Logan Elm. If they win, 97% chance they're in, 0% if they lose. So that's another one. It's not guaranteed, but it pretty much is at that point.
Right. You're going to move on to some of these potentially hosting teams in Week 11?
Yeah, so, we'll get to the long shot last, but, South Gallia at Sims Valley, South Gallia wins, they're going to be hosting 100%. If they lose, still an 83%, but more than likely you're going to be in that 8-9 game, which no one really ever wants to do because then you're in the playing the 1/8 the next week. Notre Dame, if they beat East, an 85% chance with a win, 50% chance with a loss. So they're kind of up in the air on that. Nelsonville, 100% chance for a home game if they win over Athens, 0% with a loss. And then finally, and this is the long shot, Jackson, if they win at Chillicothe, 22% chance. But
toast.
If Dover loses, which isn't like that super crazy, let me find that exactly.
That's just wild to me that Jackson is like this close on the bubble to like not hosting.
Yeah.
Jackson's just the kind of team that you would expect to play home games through week 12, right? But
yeah. Now,
obviously, we've talked about the loss to, is it Wilmington Ross?
Hamilton Ross.
Hamilton Ross has kind of hurt them a little bit. So.
Yeah, so Dover the Tornadoes play at New Philadelphia, which is a big rivalry, 6-3. They're favored by 10. So if they lose that, then there's a chance for Jackson to host that. I think it would be like a 90% chance they would host if Dover loses that. So I mean, it's a long shot, but it's still el posible.
All right. Well, obviously, this time next week we'll have all of our postseason matchups. So we'll obviously. I'm not sure how much we'll have in terms of recaps next week, but we'll definitely be previewing. There'll be a lot to preview next week. We're going to have some regional tournament volleyball, which we're getting ready to talk about some of the district first round and quarterfinal matches that we saw this past week. But yeah, some week 11 previews coming your way, and our final power rankings in next week's show, episode 50, a big one coming up next week. So
we're not having a party, but we're having a party.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of volleyball soccer.
It is, especially considering we'll have hopefully 3 very competitive district finals to recap from Saturday, just that we were at, and with how many district finals there are now, with how many districts, it's there's a lot more medals to be handed out. Yeah. Do you think that diminishes the title of district champion? I mean, like, you don't want to take away from it, but at some point you have to kind of acknowledge that a district title now isn't quite what it was last year and the prior years. I mean, like,
this is what I'll say. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see who wins, because like for me, looking at soccer, if the high seeds win, they probably would have been playing for a district final or championship anyway, no matter what division they're in. There's one school, we might have both went there. They have a very good chance to get to a district championship game in soccer, and it's going to be their worst record they've had in like 30 years. So that part of it is like, now New Albany, I think I might have mentioned it on here. I've told you before, New Albany boys soccer is in a district championship game already. Yeah. They haven't played. That diminishes it. So I think, if you get to the Final Four, it's still going to be a big deal. Right. I think if you get to the Elite Eight, I think it's.
This is going to make basketball very, very messy.
Yeah, because for South Webster in basketball, well, they made it to the Elite Eight last year. Well,
in D4.
Yeah, now they're going to be in D7.
God. Man,
they're gonna
with the talent they have.
Just put them in the Elite Eight. So for them, they've got to win that next game, or else it's going to be kind of a letdown. For like a Wheelersburg boys soccer, I would be shocked if they weren't in the Elite Eight. But there, they would play the same team they would play in the Elite Eight normally. So I don't know. It's just kind of
have to probably give the new format a year.
Yeah,
see how
I don't
see what I think about it.
I don't love it, but we are going to we're going to cover a lot of games. So follow SOSA Ohio
busy week
all week, because
writers are going to be getting after it. This is it's one of the few weeks where I'm doing substantially less than everybody else.
Yeah, which is
I'm not even doing a football game.
Yeah, which is much different than normal.
All right, let's jump into our volleyball and soccer segment. We're going to talk about one of the volleyball quarterfinals, one of the volleyball district quarterfinals that we live streamed last week. Really one of the only volleyball matches prior to the district semis that were extremely competitive. I know Vinton County and Waverly, I think, went 5 sets, or I think Valley and somebody maybe went 5 sets as well. So there were a few, but for the most part, it was a lot of 3-set sweeps.
Well, but those ones were all like very similarly seeded teams, like this one. Like this was a 4 versus 5.
Right. So if you didn't catch it live, which
this was a better one. This one did better than most, but
it did.
I would, especially the last.
If you are
the end of set 4, when it came down to literally match point.
Right. I mean, there were so it was Logan and Gallia Academy. The Braves take it in 5 sets, winning the 2nd, 4th, and 5th sets. Gallia actually took the first set 25-17. After that, for the next 3 sets, both teams reached 20 points, and in the 5th set, they both got to double digits. So the offense was flying around in this one, and you'll see why here in a second. So in terms of points through each set, Logan Elm obviously losing the first one 17-25, then winning the second 27-25, and then Gallia took the third set 25-21. Logan Elm took the fourth 26-24, and then Logan Elm took the fifth and final 15-11. So really, in terms of like sets to 25 for Logan Elm, it took 2 extended sets, which kind of shows, and I think highlights pretty fairly how competitive this match was.
Yeah, it was a great match. Now, you mentioned the 26-24 in the 4th set. Gallia was actually ahead 24-23 with the serve. And then I believe it was an Adeline Smith kill after she had hit the ball out on the previous play. So they went right back to her. She gets a big kill, and then they end up closing out that set and then winning the 5th, 15-11. It was a great match. I was able to film it because the new Logan Elm gym is a little smaller, so we don't have the setup to where we can just set it there. We do actually have to move it on that one, but it's still a great gym. It's very.
Hopefully we get over there for basketball.
Yes,
as they had one of the more exciting teams in terms of boys basketball down the stretch last season. But for Logan Elm, they're now 14-9. They're advancing to the district semis this Wednesday over at Southeastern. I think you said you might be over there.
I'll be there Saturday.
Oh, you'll be okay. So you'll be there for the finals.
Yes.
And for Gallia Academy, we can kind of talk about them first. They finish at 18-6. This is, and I probably should have looked a little bit at the OVC final standings, particularly or specifically Fairland, given that they were the ones who ended up winning the conference. This Gallia team is going to be trouble for the next 2 or 3 years, as they are one of the, and they only graduated one player, right? They had 0 juniors, so for the most part, this is a freshman and sophomore team, mostly sophomore. They had a lot of sophomores, and I think it can be highlighted when you talk about the big 3, especially at the net with a sophomore setter Grayson Clark, and then you have Abigail Clark and Aubrey Frazier, who led the way for them in terms of hitting. Right, Aubrey Frazier, 33 kills in the match for her. Abigail Clark had 13 along with it. Those two combined for 8 blocks as well. So, I mean, Frazier and Clark, I think they're both. One of them was 6'2", and one of them was 6'3". I can't remember which way it went, but both of them extremely athletic.
I was going to say they're very athletic, too.
And Clark did a great job. I've said it a bunch, as Shane would say, quarterbacking the whole operation. And Ryan Nunn, Luli Walker also were really good. Lauren Eachus, really good. She was just a freshman as well, so expect her to take some major steps over the next season or 2, and obviously they'll have her for 3 total seasons. And then Mallory Petro, I believe she was a sophomore as well, and then Chloe Bennett was a freshman libero. So this team is absolutely, in terms of youth, just loaded. And I think by watching them play, you wouldn't think this is a bunch of underclassmen, but it really is. So what are they, Division 4? So for Division 4, I mean, this is a team you got to look out for. And I would say, I can't really say they would be an early favorite to take the OVC next year, because I'm not sure what Fairland is built like. Obviously, they won it this year. But this is a team you're going to want to look out for the next couple of years, especially when we get to tournament time. Yeah,
the Blue Angels are built for success in the future, because when you've got 3 elite players at the net, I mean, Aubrey Frazier had such a monstrous game, but really, Abigail Clark was really good down the stretch as well. So they got to fix a couple things on the rotations, because there was one point where both of them were out.
Both Clark and Frazier.
Yeah, and like with that much length, I would like to see at least one of them on the court at all times. But Grayson Clark, 57 assists. It's a team that, we mentioned, losing one senior, no juniors. That can't be fun for the OVC the next couple of years. Hopefully they can up that non-conference schedule as well. I mean, they went 5-3 in the non-conference. So I mean, with how good they were, to me, that means that they challenged themselves in the non-conference, because they could have easily just kind of coasted to a 8-0 record in that and possibly gotten to that 4 seed. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see these two teams play a little further down the line next year, because while Logan Elm has some outstanding seniors, they still have a lot coming back, and Claire King, who's missed the second half of the season with an injury, will be back for them next year as well. So look for this to be a matchup probably at Southeastern next year in a district semi and possibly a final.
So we can go ahead and move on to the previews. Obviously nothing super...
Well, didn't really go into...
Oh, did you want to continue?
Oh, just on Logan Elm, because we didn't really talk much on them. Was, the 14-9 seniors with Addison Smith, 16 kills, Eliana Hutchison with 14, Hannah Rhodes had 39 assists. They had an interview after, which I did. I thought was really good, because when they're coming down to the last point of their career, and they battled back. Kennedy Groff was really good, 11 kills, 4 blocks, 8 digs. Adeline Smith, 11 kills. Kanea Ingram. Kiana.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can't spell.
Yeah. I spelled it wrong. That's why. Yeah. You spelled it right. So she had 4 aces. Like her service was really,
What'd you say, Kanea?
Yeah, because I spelled it wrong. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I wrote it last year for basketball, because she's a stud in basketball too. But 4 aces, 15 digs. She'll probably be the main passer next year. She split it a little bit this year with Rhodes, but she had 5 assists. Sadie Binkley played well, 24 digs. Kimberly Petty's another one. She had 3 aces. They're a team. They're pretty young. We saw their JV team when they played Fairfield Union. They look like they're going to be really good in the future as well. So. Yeah, so it was a great match. Make sure you go back and watch it if you have some time and want to see some quality volleyball.
All right, we can go ahead and talk about some of these district semi matchups in both girls and boys soccer, as well as volleyball coming up this week. Of course, there are some on Monday night, which is when we are recording this. So obviously, we're going to kind of be previewing some of those, but they're already being played. So we'll be like, well, who's going to win? And it's like, well, they already won. Why are you talking? It's because we recorded a night in advance, and then, obviously no show in between. I think Wednesday might be the last day of the district semi-round.
There's maybe
a few on Thursday, maybe. But obviously, either way, there's not going to be a show in between the semis and the finals, so we won't have any previews of the finals, but we will have recaps of all of those come next Monday.
Yeah, but I do kind of want to give a special shout out to one certain district overall. It's a 4-teamer. Some of these have 8 teams in them, but it's a 4-team district over Division III girls at Logan. They play on Wednesday. The winners play on Saturday. Fairfield Union versus Marietta is the first matchup. Marietta last year beat Fairfield Union in the Sweet 16 2-0. We talked about it a little bit last year when the boys played. It was kind of a revenge game for Fairfield Union. I could see this being the same for the girls. They are led by Kyla Gasser with 23 goals, 15 assists. Rachel Worthman with 12 goals and 11 assists. I believe it was like either 16 or 17 different players have scored this year for Fairfield Union. And then this stat might be more ridiculous than that Logan stat. They have outscored their opponents 100-4 on the season. They gave up 3 goals to Bloom Carroll. They lost 3-1 to Bloom Carroll. Other than that game, 99-1. And they just, shutouts galore. Their defense has been outstanding. To me, they're the heavy favorites to win this, although Marietta is very good. But one other team in it, Athens, tied them 0-0 early in the season. Athens has only given up 14 goals this season. They play Chillicothe in the late game on Wednesday. They beat Chillicothe 1-0 on September 14th. So they've played these teams. They split with Marietta. Now, Marietta beat Athens 4-0 late in the regular season. Athens beat them 2-0 early in the season. So to me, it looks like Marietta's playing really well right now. So any of these 4 teams can win it. Chillicothe earned their first tournament win since 2020. They're like the ultimate benefactor of the going from Division 1 to Division 3. And it's not because, they're playing, an easier schedule, easier opponents, whatever. They've been one of the smallest schools in Division 1 for years. When they were Division 2, they were winning districts all the time. But now they are with schools that are more their size. They're able to finally win a tournament game. They're led by Kara Archer. She's got 45 goals on the season, 106 in her career. So those are going to be outstanding games. If you're around Logan on Wednesday, that'd be a couple great games to go watch. And then also on Saturday. So we'll definitely have coverage of those games as well. On Thursday, and then like Dewey said, we're not going to be able to really preview any of the district semifinals going into the finals because you don't really know. But look for updates on Thursday from Valley. I believe I'll have that. I don't know why I would go to Valley instead of Waverly because I definitely signed up first, so I should have just taken the shorter trip. But Division 4 will be at Valley. Division 5 will be at Waverly. And then, like we said, Saturday for girls also will be Division 3. For boys, Division 3 will be at Logan on Saturday. Division 4 will be at Jackson. And Division 5 will be at Zane Trace. So that's going to be some outstanding games. Right now, it looks like those are night games where the volleyball is going to be during the day. So that's going to be the big thing there. Now, tournament volleyball, Division 5, district final streams are going to be live from Waverly. You're going to be with Shane, right? Yep. So, Dewey and Shane.
I don't know. We're still kind of waiting.
Let's tell them that
for sure the first game.
Yeah.
We're still kind of waiting.
Wheelersburg did win already. They beat South Point in 3. So it'll be Wheelersburg against the winner of Minford and Fairland, which will be playing very shortly, if not already started. Then the next one will be Adena, most likely, against the winner of New Lexington and Chesapeake. New Lexington's ridiculous, so that could be a really good match. And then the last one's going to be really interesting because Huntington is the 3 seed in there, but in the district semi, they're going to play Westfall, who they beat in 5, both of their matches so far this season. And then the other district semi is going to be North Adams and Zane Trace, which I think will be a really good matchup as well. Any of those 4 teams could win that district. So for me, I feel like those games are going to be, those teams would win the district normally anyway if they were Division 3. Now they're Division 5. So yeah. And then the other district finals at Wellston on Saturday will have Division 6, and then Southeastern will have Division 4, which is a singular one, and then 2 for Division 7 on Saturday. So it should be a lot of volleyball, a lot of soccer, anything you want in those 2 sports on Saturday. You can see multiple district finals wherever you go. So get out there and support the schools, and so just go watch some really good volleyball. If you can't, watch Dewey on live stream.
Like we said, some of those Division 5, or should I say some, those for the Division 5 regional semis next week, those getting bumped from Thursday to Wednesday night over at the Jim Myers Gymnasium.
Jim's
over
Jam.
in Logan. I love that gym.
Yeah, I do too. It's very
favorite
purple.
ones. I know. I like it.
And also make sure you follow all of our writers and whatnot for this. We'll go into detail on several of these matchups next week, as will probably be our biggest volleyball and soccer show of the year as we get ready to kind of preview regional action as well.
For what it's worth, Waverly, that's where they're playing. Wheelersburg taking down South Point in their regional semi. I'm all over the place. It's time to watch football tonight. Wheelersburg taking down South Point in their district semi, so they'll obviously play the winner of Fairland and Minford.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wheelersburg already playing Minford. What did I even just? Wheelersburg.
I don't know. You're just repeating what I just said like 3 minutes ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right. And then Minford soccer just beat Westfall, so Minford's in Thursday's district final as well. So they're a team that is going to make a run. And I think they were going to do it regardless because they are loaded. Which ones did I sign up for? Of course I signed up to go to Valley. I'm a silly goose. No, I didn't. I'm going to Waverly. Yeah. Good job, me.
All right. Do you have anything extra to add before we get out of here?
Gas is cheaper. Can't imagine why that is. It's not a big thing coming up in 2 weeks. And then the gas will get jacked up one way or the other. Actually, one way it's definitely gonna get jacked up. The other way it might just like slowly go up. But yeah.
All right. Well, time for Monday Night Football. We got a 9:00 game tonight. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be asleep for that.
I'm not, because I have to watch it. Because tonight could be a rough night. Tonight could be a rough one. If some things don't happen the way they should. But all right. Like Bruce said, if you can't get out and watch games, some football from an undisclosed location,
which will be announced maybe by the time this show comes out.
At some point this Friday. Hint, it'll be for the league title. So
it was. We had one game already set, and then the league title implications are gone. So then we looked at a couple other options, and now we're going to be at one for our league championship. So
and then 3 district semis over at Waverly. No. Dude, I just need to get off the
mic.
3 district finals from Waverly this Saturday. And then we'll have, I think, 2 regional semis next Wednesday, and then I think the regional final on Saturday is still on Saturday, hopefully. So, all right, well, I think that's about it for us this week. Big show, like you said, coming up next week. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of SOSA Overtime, presented by Perfection.